Good morning, this is Zane with Champion Autolift. I will be installing an FP11 today, and I'll be showing you all the instructions on how to do so. So follow along, and we'll get started. Alright, first of all, you want to unpackage your FP11 and get it oriented like this. So the track on the runways will be on the inside of both. The top ramp is this one right here that I've already taken off, and you'll want to look for this hole right here. As you can see, that's where the hydraulic hose will go, and also where your pump motor will go. And also you want to find the leg that has this little tiny screw hole in it. That will be the post that you'll put next to there that your pump goes on. And then also, once you get this crossbar off, you will take this spring off of this little bolt right here to release the tension on that. And then you put some kind of a shim or something in there to keep the locking finger from getting in here and getting in your way. And we'll raise this up and lower it down on the posts. Then about right here, you'll want to take these boards out so your fingers can lock into place. Go ahead and lower it down. All right, next you will have two brown boxes like that. Unpackage everything in the boxes, and these is what you'll need next, along with a little hex bolt, a lock nut, and washer. All right, for each post you'll need 4 of these white blocks. We're going to slide them down in each corner. Then you'll need 2 of these. Put the fingers on top of the white blocks and the little hex screws. Just like so. There'll be 1 on each side of this post. Do that on all 4 corners and you'll be good to go. I want to make sure to tighten these little bolts with the number 5 hex. And also, you will want to put these springs back on the safety lock release. Do all that to all 4 corners. And then get your ramps up in the air and on. And you want to take these bolts and put them from the outside in. Flat washer, lock washer, and nut on the back side. And you'll notice you'll have 2 different lengths of bolts. The short ones go down here at the front end where these stop plates are at, and the long ones go down at the other end where the little pieces are to hook onto your ramps. And you also have this locking release rod. You'll need that down here at the front of the lift. So these are the plates you'll need at the rear end of the lift, the side you drive onto, because your ramps will hook right in there. And also, this plate will sit down in there as a stop. And this is the end of the lock rod for down here. And then also you want to hook up a ratchet strap underneath here. Hook it onto the cylinder right there. That way you can pull a little bit of slack out of the cylinder. Once you get it free, you should be able to pull it by hand.
Okay, you'll have 4 of these post caps. 2 of them will have these drilled holes in them and be used for mounting the pump motor. Put the large holes so it's in line with the pulley for the cables.
Next, we'll be underneath the lift on the rear end of the lift with the 4 pulleys, and you want to pull some of the slack out of these cables. Then Then you'll want to get the cables onto the pulleys, and you want to make sure that all these cables are straight in line and none of them are twisted. Also, you want to check these nuts, get them all the same distance, and then go ahead and tighten the lock nut so they're nice and secure. So we'll go ahead and straighten out the cables right now. Once you know the cables are in the right position, you can take some of these bolts and thread them up through here to keep the cables on the pulleys. Just like that. Got all the cables nice and straight, oriented with each other, and do the same thing to the other side. Now that you have the cables all situated, you can take this lock rod, take the nut off of it, put the rod through this hole, put the nut back on, and thread it into the locking rod. You may need to hold it with the vice grips. Do this on both ends. Sometimes these cables get stuck down underneath the pulley, so you have to get up there with a number 8 Allen head and just a ratchet wrench to fit right in there and loosen that screw up there so you can drop this pin out, get your cable oriented around the pulley, and good to go. Then you want to put your locking rod through the hole, put the nut back on, and thread it into there, but do not tighten this yet. We'll tighten that later on both ends. And then you'll want to take your hydraulic hose, take the locking nut off of there, put it in the hose, put it in the hole closest to the pulley, and put the lock nut on the other side. Alright, now you're going to hook up your lock linkage, and the bolts are already in the lock linkages. The little one goes on the bottom, long one on top, and you want to get this so it's pretty much up and down. You want to tighten these so that all the slack is taken out of them, so it's as tight as it can be. That way it'll get the most turn out of your lever. And this is the side that will be with the motor on it. And we'll go down and do the same thing to the other side. And once you get those tight, make sure to tighten these lock nuts. And also go underneath and check this bolt that connects it to the locking finger and make sure that is not crazy loose. You don't want a whole lot of slop in it. You want it to be loose so that this can still pivot, but not a bunch of slop in there. Now you're going to go back underneath and tighten the lock nut that's at the end of this rod on both sides. And once in a while on these FP11s, if you don't get all this tight and everything, it won't twist enough to release all the locks. So sometimes you have to go underneath there and twist that black tube the opposite direction, kind of preload it. Will give you a little bit more twist in all your locking system. Now we're going to run the cables, so go underneath the pulley and over the front side of the little pulley, up through this hole with both the nuts on top. I like to run them down so the top nut is just flush with the cable. Do that to all 4 corners. Now we're going to install the pump motor. I like to put it on the post first, and need 4 bolts, nuts, and washers. Then the little short bolt goes in the base down here. Now that we have the pump motor installed, we're going to attach the hose. And we'll need to take this out as a number 6 Allen wrench and trade it for this. So just swap those two so your hose can be on the right side. And make sure all your hydraulic fittings are tight, both here, there, and all underneath the cylinder. Next, we'll fill with oil. Hook up the electrical. We recommend a licensed electrician do that. And we should be ready to test it out.
So this motor is a 220 volt motor, but I have it hooked into 110 so I can test it. I'll just use the breaker button underneath, but you'll be pushing the green button when it's fully operational in 220. I recommend double checking to make sure all the cables are underneath the pulleys correctly before you start. Okay, now we're going to go up with the lift. You're going to listen to all the locks to make sure they're engaging at the same time. If not, we'll need to tighten or loosen the cable bolts on top of the post to adjust each lock on each corner. One thing you want to make sure to do is put a zip tie around this hose up there so it doesn't, as you go all the way down to the floor, doesn't get smashed between the post and the bottom of the cross member. Okay, before you go up with the lift, you want to go all the way down to the floor. This will bleed out any air that's in the system. It is also a good idea to check underneath the lift and make sure all the cables are around the pulleys like they should be. Okay, once you get the lift to the bottom and get all the air drained out of the system, you're going to raise it back up and listen to the locks and make sure they're all locking at the same time on each post. Okay, so they're not all locking the same, so I'm going to get up and adjust some of these cables. Now once you get the wheels bolted on, you'll want to put them on the lift like this with the pin in the leg, and make sure that that saddle is sitting right underneath the crossbar on both sides. And you'll just lower the lift down onto those saddles, and it'll pick up each leg, and you'll be able to move the lift around the shop. And with that, you have completed the installation process for FP11. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us at championautolift.com or give us a call. It's also a good idea to check underneath the runway to make sure the cables are all on the pulleys correctly before you lower it all the way down. Okay, now we're going to raise the lift back up, and we'll be watching each corner and listening to make sure they're all locking at the same time. Stop when you hear the first corner lock in, and then raise all 3 other corners until they lock in also. Once you get all 4 corners locking at the same time, then we'll be ready to move on, and you're almost done. Once you have your wheels put together, notice the orientation of the metal goes over to the crossbar, and then put your pin in the post, and you'll be ready to lower the lift down onto those saddles, and it'll raise the post right up off the ground, and you'll be able to roll it around the shop. And with that, we have completed the installation process for a FP11 Champion lift. If you need to contact us at championautolift.com, or look us up on the internet and give us a call at our Arizona, Missouri, or Florida location.